The cold open. Clarissa Shields is the greatest women's boxer breathing right now. And by the time this story finishes, that sentence is going to hit harder than any punch she has ever thrown. Before we take one more step into this circus, I hope every single one of you watching is doing well. Because for the carnival barkers and the cosign choir we're going to drag into the light today, well, happy weekend and welcome to the show. This is going to be a big one. Maybe one of the biggest breakdowns I have ever put together on this channel, and you already know what to do before we go any deeper. Smash that like button, and I mean really smash it. I want the algorithm to hear us together tonight because a very particular group of hype merchants have decided to run their mouths, and it is time to hand them the receipt. Subscribe if you haven't already. Ride with me, because when we crack open what Ray J just said on camera, and what he just accidentally handed the entire boxing world, you're gonna laugh, you're gonna shake your head, and you might even feel a little bad for Clarissa Shields because Clarissa Shields did not sign up for this. Clarissa Shields signed up to be a champion. And a champion is exactly what Clarissa Shields still is, no matter what the Zeus Loyalist Guild tries to sell you this week. So here's the thing. This whole thing started innocently enough. Ray J, in his infinite Ray J-ness, sat down for a promotional talk that was supposed to hype the upcoming card, and instead Ray J proceeded to torch that card, that promotion, that co-main event, and that entire arena in one single stream of consciousness. And the funniest part, the part that has me pacing around my studio right now, is that Ray J does not know he did it. Ray J thinks he cooked. Ray J thinks he sold a fight. Ray J actually walked out there, poured gasoline on the marquee, lit the match, and then asked the crowd if they smell smoke. That's Ray J. That is exactly what Ray J has always been, and today Ray J out-Ray J'd himself in a way even the harshest Ray J critic could not have scripted. Ray J is a walking headline machine, and this time the headline he wrote was the one nobody in that building wanted printed. If you have been watching this channel for any real length of time, you already know how I feel about promotional cycles that get hijacked by supporting acts. You already know how I feel about a poster that reads one way and a promo run that plays another way. And you already know how I feel about a champion, a real, credentialed, unimpeachable champion, being treated like the opening band on their own tour. That is what is happening right now with Clarissa Shields, and it did not happen by accident. It happened because Zeus Network built this card with the wrong center of gravity, and Ray J, in true Ray J fashion, walked into the promo cycle, grabbed the microphone with both hands, and moved the center of gravity even further away from where it should have been. Ray J did not steal the show. Ray J stole the seriousness. And once the seriousness leaves a boxing card, the show is only a matter of time behind it. Setting the table. Now let me set the table for you. On the 15th at the State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Zeus Network is putting on what they're calling a boxing card. Clarissa Shields is fighting a woman named Kay Scott. Clarissa Shields is a two-time Olympic gold medalist. Clarissa Shields is undefeated. Clarissa Shields is the pound-for-pound queen. And Clarissa Shields is being placed on the top of a card that has, sitting one rung below her, Ray J versus Orlando Brown. Yes, that Ray J, that Orlando Brown, on a real boxing card, in a real boxing venue, under a real boxing commission, with real boxing money on the line. Take a breath. Read that again, because that is the level of unseriousness we are dealing with, and it explains everything Ray J was about to say next. Everything. Understand what the poster is actually asking you to believe. The poster is asking you to believe that a two-time Olympic gold medalist and a reality television personality belong on the same fight night as co-headliners of equal narrative weight. The poster is asking you to believe that a decade of championship dominance and a decade of gossip column notoriety are two sides of the same promotional coin. The poster is asking you to believe that the ropes, the gloves, the mouthpieces, and the 14-ounce Olympic history of Clarissa Shields all share a marquee with a man whose entire boxing resume fits inside a viral clip. And to be fair, this is not a new trick. Promoters have been mixing spectacle and legitimacy since the first bare-knuckle exhibition. But there is a difference between mixing and diluting. And Zeus on this card is not mixing. Zeus is diluting. And Ray J is the biggest bottle of water they poured into a very expensive glass of whiskey. The State Farm Arena is not a small room. The State Farm Arena is a legitimate venue with a legitimate history of legitimate events. When you put a card in the State Farm Arena, you are telling the market that this event deserves that ceiling. And a champion of Clarissa Shields' caliber absolutely does deserve that ceiling. The question is whether the surrounding operation deserves to stand next to her on that stage. And every day the promotion has answered that question with a decisive, and to be blunt, embarrassing no. Because every promotional beat that has come out of this camp so far, from the initial announcement to the press conference to the recent interviews, has felt less like a fight card selling itself and more like a reality show pretending to be a fight card because the reality show ran out of storylines. Ray J in his Ray J-ness. Ray J, sitting there with the confidence of a man who has never once been told no by his own mouth, decides to tell the room how he is preparing for this fight. And Ray J tells them on camera that he is running on juice. Apple juice. Orange juice. Fruit punch. Ray J looked into the lens and said with a straight face that after a 2-week run on apple juice, he is going to be ready for a professional prize fight. A 2-week run. On juice. In front of a boxing commission. Now look, I love a healthy metaphor as much as the next commentator. I understand what Ray J thinks he was saying. Ray J was trying to imply that he does not need what other fighters allegedly need. Ray J was trying to imply that he is clean, that he is natural, that his opponent might not be. But the way Ray J said it, the way Ray J winked into that camera, the way Ray J giggled at his own joke, that was not a health confession. That was a subliminal grenade, and Ray J tossed it into the middle of his own co-star's promo window. And this is where the tape starts telling on everyone. Because right after Ray J said the juice line, Ray J looked at the room and, according to Ray J himself, dropped that on Zeus, quote-unquote, anything you want to do, anything, on Zeus, on the platform that is co-signing this card, on the platform that is supposed to be selling the boxing side of this equation as legitimate. That is what Ray J told the world. Ray J told the world that on Zeus, the rules are optional. Ray J told the world that on Zeus, testing is a suggestion. Ray J told the world that Aiden Ross does not allow that stuff, but Zeus, well, Zeus is a different building. Ray J said this out loud. Ray J said this into a microphone. And nobody at Zeus stopped Ray J. Nobody at Zeus corrected Ray J. Nobody at Zeus pulled the plug on the segment. Which means either Zeus agrees with Ray J, or Zeus is not paying attention. And honestly, in the year we are living in right now, either answer is a scandal. Let us really sit inside that Ray J moment for another 60 seconds, because Ray J does not know how much he handed the boxing world in those 30 on-camera seconds. Ray J was not asked a hardball question. Ray J was not being cross-examined. Ray J was in the friendliest, softest, most sympathetic promotional context a boxer could possibly be in. Ray J was on a network that hired Ray J. Ray J was surrounded by Ray J's own people. Ray J was on the platform that stands to gain the most from Ray J looking good. And with all of that stacked in Ray J's favor, Ray J still could not stop himself from tossing juice references at the exact question every boxing commission in the country needs answered clearly. That is not a promoter's dream. That is a promoter's nightmare in slow motion, and Zeus watched it happen live without lifting a finger. When your own network cannot protect you from yourself, you are not in a promotion. You are in a car with no brakes and no seatbelt. And note the internal contradiction inside Ray J's juice bit, because it is important. On one hand, Ray J is telling the world he is on a fruit punch cleanse, natural, pure, virtuous. On the other hand, Ray J is telling the world Zeus lets fighters do anything they want. Those two claims cannot both be a compliment. If Zeus lets fighters do anything they want, then Ray J's pure fruit punch stance either has to distinguish Ray J from Ray J's opponent, or it has to admit that Ray J is a lone virtuous soul on a platform that does not care. Either way, Ray J just described a testing environment no serious commission would sign off on. That is not spin. That is Ray J's own framing, and every word of it is now sitting on the tape. The ringmaster in the shadows. Look at the ringmaster in the shadows here. Look at Zeus. Because a very fair question has been sitting on the table since this whole card was announced, and nobody at Zeus has answered it. Have Clarissa Shields and K. Scott been tested for this fight? I haven't heard a single word about VADA. I haven't heard a single word about USADA. I haven't heard a single independent testing agency issue a statement, a schedule, a report, or a photograph of a sample cup. Nothing. Silence. And when a boxing card with a two-time Olympic gold medalist on it cannot even confirm basic testing protocols, and one of the undercard talents is on camera talking about Zeus like it's a punchline, we do not have a fight card. We have a costume party with gloves. The silence around testing is louder than any promo Ray J could ever cut. Because in modern professional boxing, testing is not just a checkbox. Testing is the difference between a legitimate contest and a liability. Testing is what tells the public, the media, the fighters, and the sponsors that this is a real event with real consequences. Testing is the invisible spine that holds a fight card upright. And when a promotion refuses to talk about testing, refuses to name a testing partner, refuses to publish a testing schedule, refuses to answer the question at all, that promotion is not just being disorganized. That promotion is telling you what it thinks of the sport. That promotion is telling you that testing is a variable to be avoided rather than a foundation to be highlighted. And once you understand that, every other decision on this card starts making a lot more sense in the worst possible way. There is a version of this promotion where Zeus could have answered the testing question in a single press release and calmed the entire boxing internet. Just 2 paragraphs. Name a testing partner. Name a schedule. Name a protocol. That is all it would take. That is all any credible promoter does at the start of a fight week. That is not a favor. That is the baseline. And Zeus has refused to meet that baseline, which means one of 2 things. Either Zeus does not have a testing partner they want to name, or Zeus has one and is embarrassed to say who it is. Neither answer is good. Neither answer helps Clarissa Shields. Neither answer helps K. Scott. Neither answer helps Ray J. And neither answer helps the paying customer who is about to spend real money on a card that cannot even confirm the basics. And when Ray J stepped up to a microphone and made the Zeus joke in the middle of that silence, Ray J did not just embarrass himself. Ray J filled the silence with Ray J's own soundtrack. Ray J, without meaning to, gave every skeptic in the boxing world a highlight reel to point at when the testing question comes back up on fight week. Ray J made the joke that the promotion refused to prevent. Ray J connected the dots the promotion refused to connect. And now that connection cannot be uncoupled. When people ask about testing on this card between now and the 15th, the answer they are going to reach for first is not a press release. It is a Ray J clip, the Miami question. And that brings us to the next question, and it is a question that has been lingering over this entire promotional run. Why is Clarissa Shields in Miami? Somebody in the chat, in the comments, on any platform, please answer this. Clarissa Shields is not a Miami fighter. Clarissa Shields trained in Flint. Clarissa Shields fights out of Michigan. Clarissa Shields has a whole ecosystem built around her preparation, and none of it is on South Beach. So what is Clarissa Shields doing in Miami during a fight camp? We know it is not a BBL. We know it is not vacation. We know it is not a photo shoot, because the promotional machine on this fight has been so quiet you could hear a mouse tiptoe across the canvas. Something is off. Something has been off since the press conference. And every day that goes by without a real answer from Clarissa Shields' camp, that question grows louder in the minds of the fans who actually care about the sport. That is not a knock on Clarissa Shields. That is a knock on the Ray J realitoring complex that is supposed to be protecting her narrative and instead is letting the undercard become the whole story. Let me be even clearer. Miami is not the enemy. Miami has produced champions. Miami has hosted camps. Miami has warm weather and a serious training culture at the elite level. But Clarissa Shields' training story has never been a Miami story. Clarissa Shields' story has been forged in cold gyms and colder mornings in Flint. And every boxing fan with a memory that stretches back further than last week knows that story by heart. So when the whispers say Clarissa Shields is in Miami, and there is no clarifying statement from Clarissa Shields' team, and there is no video from a gym, and there is no camp footage on the promotional feed, the vacuum fills itself. And vacuums in boxing promotion always fill themselves with the worst possible narrative, because the worst possible narrative is the one that gets the clicks. If Clarissa Shields is running a Miami camp for a specific reason, tell us. If Clarissa Shields is doing media in Miami, tell us. If Clarissa Shields is meeting with sponsors in Miami, tell us. The silence is not doing Clarissa Shields any favors. The silence is doing Ray J a favor, because every hour of silence from Clarissa Shields' camp is another hour that Ray J's mouth becomes the loudest thing on this card. And I want to draw a very sharp line here, because I know how people read on the internet. Nothing about that Miami question is a criticism of Clarissa Shields. Clarissa Shields has earned every benefit of every doubt many times over. The criticism belongs to whoever is running Clarissa Shields' promotional communications right now. Because a champion of Clarissa Shields' stature should have a media team that answers the obvious questions before they become theories. That media team should be putting camp content on the timeline daily. That media team should be sending clips of the mitts. That media team should be teasing the walkout song. That media team should be doing the 1,000 small things that let a champion sell their own fight without needing a co-star to do it for them. And instead, that vacuum has been left wide open, and Ray J has walked right into it. The elephant in the arena. Now let's talk about the elephant in the arena. Ray J, in that same conversation, decided to explain to the world exactly why people are showing up to the State Farm Arena that night. And this is where Ray J went from mildly self-sabotaging to fully cinematic. Ray J looked at his fellow reality television gladiators and said, with his full chest, that the celebrities on the card are the main event. Not the pound-for-pound queen. Not the world champion at the top of the marquee. The celebrities. Ray J said, and I want you to hear this in Ray J's own voice, that fans quote-unquote are not going to get there late just to watch Clarissa. Ray J said that. Ray J said the fans, the paying customers, the ticket holders are showing up early for Ray J, for Orlando Brown, for Tashiki, for Big Lex, and are not, and I quote Ray J again, showing up in time for the champion. That is not a slip. That is a confession. That is Ray J telling every single person in that building who is actually being sold, and telling every single person in Clarissa Shields' camp exactly what they suspected but were too polite to say. The curtain just dropped, and Ray J is standing behind it with the rope in his hand. Take a second and understand what just happened there. Ray J was booked on this card as a supporting attraction. Ray J was placed on this card, in theory, to help fill a room. And Ray J, live on camera on the promotional trail, told the world that he does not consider Clarissa Shields the draw. Ray J told the world that Clarissa Shields is the undercard to Ray J. Ray J told the world that a two-time Olympic gold medalist is a backdrop for a reality television spectacle. And nobody in that room pushed back. Nobody in that room said, hey, Ray J, maybe don't say that on camera. Which tells you everything you need to know about the room, about the promotion, about the whole apparatus that has been built around this card. That is not a boxing promotion. That is a group text with cameras. There is a specific kind of arrogance you have to say something like that on camera about the actual world champion who is sharing your fight night. It is not confidence. Confidence has borders. Confidence knows what it does not know. This is something else. This is the arrogance of a personality who has spent so long being told his voice is the biggest voice in the room that he no longer notices when it is not. And that is not a personal indictment of Ray J the human being. It is an indictment of the ecosystem that put Ray J in that chair and gave Ray J that microphone and let Ray J roll for that long without a producer in Ray J's ear whispering, Ray J, pull back. Because a good promoter would have made that call. A good promoter would have edited that soundbite. A good promoter would have refused to release that clip. Instead, the clip is live, the clip is trending, and the clip is telling the whole story. And I want to be very clear about something. This is not a shot at Ray J the entertainer. Ray J has had moments. Ray J has had records. Ray J has had a career. Ray J's job on this card is to be Ray J. And to his credit, Ray J is doing that with a level of dedication most professionals cannot match. But the second Ray J stepped onto a boxing promotion and started spraying subliminals about juice, testing, and who the real draw is, Ray J stopped being a supporting act and started being an accidental whistleblower. Ray J is telling on the whole operation. And the operation deserves it. The operation earned it. Because the operation is the one that put Ray J on a microphone next to a real champion and expected magic. What they got was chaos, and chaos is the one thing this promotion cannot afford because chaos peels back the curtain, and the curtain, once peeled, does not go back up. The co-main and the comedy comparison. Now let's rewind for a second and look at the co-main event itself. Ray J versus Orlando Brown. On paper, that is a moment. Two figures with decades of pop culture equity. Both willing to step into a ring, both willing to entertain. I understand the pitch. I understand why someone in a boardroom greenlit it. But the moment Ray J opened his mouth and said this fight is going to be like Martin Lawrence versus Eddie Murphy, we crossed a line from promotion into parody. Ray J compared himself and Orlando Brown to two of the greatest comedic performers this country has ever produced. Ray J said this fight is a family event. Ray J said the whole family has to gather to watch it. Ray J said it is a watch party. Ray J said it is a must-see. Ray J said, in fewer words, that this is culture. And look, it might be entertainment. It might even be fun. But it is not culture. It is content. And there is a very real difference. And the person who should be most upset about that difference is the champion sitting one line up on the poster. Let me expand on that Martin Lawrence versus Eddie Murphy comparison, because it is actually one of the most revealing lines Ray J has ever delivered. Martin Lawrence and Eddie Murphy are two artists who spent 40 years perfecting their craft in stand-up, film, television, and stage. Their imagined matchup lives in the American imagination not because two funny people would be in a ring, but because of what they represent culturally, artistically, generationally. Ray J invoked those two names because Ray J needed the biggest possible cultural anchor to hold up the smallest possible fight. And that, in itself, is the confession. When you have to compare your co-main to two of the greatest comedians in American history to make it feel like a big deal, you have already admitted, without meaning to, that the fight itself does not carry its own weight. Great fights do not need those comparisons. Great fights compare themselves to other great fights. Ray J had to reach outside the entire sport just to describe his own bout, and that reach is the tell. Because here is what nobody at Zeus wants to say out loud. Clarissa Shields did not spend 2 decades in a gym for her main event to be sold as the appetizer to a reality television grudge match. Clarissa Shields did not become the greatest women's boxer of her generation so that a promotional interview could turn into a Ray J stand-up set. Clarissa Shields deserves better. Clarissa Shields has always deserved better. And every time Clarissa Shields has been shortchanged by a promotion, by a broadcaster, by a network, by a co-star, Clarissa Shields has kept her head down, done the work, and let the tape talk. But this time the tape is talking on somebody else. The tape is talking on Ray J. The tape is talking on Zeus. The tape is talking on every hype merchant who signed off on this poster and pretended it made sense. The silence from Zeus. And it is important to say what nobody in the mainstream boxing press has said yet. Zeus, as a platform, has not been promoting this card since the press conference. Zeus has been quiet. Zeus has been dark. Zeus has been running like a network that already knows the ceiling. Ray J is out there tap dancing on interviews because Ray J has to. Because if Ray J does not talk, nobody talks. And when the promotional weight of an entire card lands on the shoulders of a man who thinks apple juice is a training regimen, you already know the ticket sales are telling their own story. Ray J said the arena is nearly sold out. The arena is not nearly sold out. Ride the applause while it lasts, Ray J, because the numbers are going to speak, and the numbers do not care about vibes. There is a specific kind of quiet that settles over a fight promotion when the internal metrics do not match the external optimism. That quiet is what Zeus is broadcasting to anyone who knows what to listen for. Real promotions in the final month before a fight are loud. Real promotions are pushing tickets, pushing broadcast, pushing merchandise, pushing sponsor activation, pushing every conceivable brand into every conceivable pocket. Real promotions are booking every talk show, every podcast, every radio hit. Real promotions are dropping camp footage, sit-downs, historical retrospectives, weigh-in previews, everything they can get on the timeline. Zeus is doing almost none of that. Zeus is letting Ray J do it, and Ray J is not doing it. Ray J is doing Ray J. That is a critical distinction, and it is one that a real promoter would have identified 2 months ago and adjusted around. The boxing resume gap. Let's dig into the boxing side of this because it matters. Clarissa Shields versus K. Scott is being framed as a legitimate title-adjacent fight, but the tape and the resume tell a different story. Clarissa Shields is a 2-time Olympic gold medalist, an undisputed world champion across multiple divisions, and one of the most decorated female fighters in the sport's history. K. Scott is a 42-year-old debutante on the American scene, with a limited number of professional bouts, 0 knockouts, and a career that has been more social media than sanctioned. That is not a knock on K. Scott the human being. That is a description of K. Scott the resume. And when you put that resume across the ring from Clarissa Shields, you do not have a competitive prize fight. You have a coronation dressed up as a competition, and the promoter is charging you full price for the ticket. And it is worth saying here that a mismatch is not automatically a bad night of boxing. Some of the most iconic performances in boxing history are technically mismatches on paper. A great champion showcasing dominance can be a beautiful thing, but that only works if the promotion is honest about what it is selling. If the promotion admits that this is a showcase, that this is Clarissa Shields reminding the world she is untouchable at this weight, then the ticket price and the pay-per-view are contextualized. The fan knows what they are buying. The fan buys it anyway because Clarissa Shields on any night is worth the price of admission. Where Zeus is failing is in refusing to frame the night honestly. Zeus is trying to sell the K. Scott bout as a fight and the Ray J bout as a fight and the whole card as a boxing event, when in reality one bout is a showcase, one bout is a spectacle, and the whole card is a hybrid streaming product. Say that, sell that, own that, and you might have something. Hide it, and you have exactly what Zeus is watching happen right now. Following the money. So who benefits from this exact configuration? Follow the money. Zeus needs Clarissa Shields on the poster because Clarissa Shields is the only name on that poster with global boxing credibility. Zeus needs the celebrity undercard because celebrity undercards drive social media clips, and social media clips drive Zeus subscriptions. Zeus needs Ray J to be loud, because Ray J being loud generates the outrage cycle that pushes the card into hip-hop timelines, TMZ, sports blogs, and reaction channels. And Zeus needs the fine print on testing, sanctioning, and undercard integrity to stay quietly under the fold, because the moment those questions become the headline, the whole operation gets a lot harder to sell. That is not a conspiracy. That is a marketing plan. And Ray J, bless him, just read the marketing plan out loud on camera and did not realize the microphone was on. Now zoom in on the subscription angle for a second, because it is doing more heavy lifting in this operation than the boxing is. Zeus is not primarily selling a fight card. Zeus is primarily selling a subscription funnel. The fight card is the acquisition event. The controversy, the clips, the drama, the Ray J moments, all of that content is designed to bring in the sign-up, and the sign-up is designed to stick after the card ends. That is why the promotional engine looks so uneven from the outside. That is why the traditional boxing markers, camp footage, sparring reports, media day sit-downs, are all missing. Because those are not the metrics that matter to this business model. The metric that matters to this business model is how many people click subscribe in the 24 hours around the card. And the fastest way to drive that number is to keep Ray J talking. It is not a boxing playbook. It is a reality television playbook. And it is being run on top of a boxing card, which is why the seams keep showing. The dangerous optics. And this brings us to the darker question, the one I have been holding in my back pocket because it is uncomfortable, but it has to be asked. What happens if something goes wrong on the 15th? What happens if a fighter on this card gets hurt? What happens if the testing protocols, or lack of them, produce an outcome that a legitimate athletic commission would not have allowed? What happens when the boxing world looks at the tape and sees Ray J on that same night, on that same card, on that same broadcast, giggling about juice and running through subliminals? The optics are not just bad. The optics are dangerous. And when a promotion mixes reality television theatrics with world-level boxing, the promotion is not the one who pays the price. The fighters are. And Clarissa Shields, the very champion this card is supposed to be built around, is the one whose legacy is stapled to the whole event, whether she asked for that or not. Injury in boxing is not hypothetical. Injury in boxing is the baseline. Every professional fighter who signs a contract accepts that on any given night, in any given round, in any given exchange, the human body can fail. And what protects that fighter is not the fighter's own conditioning alone. What protects that fighter is the sanctioning body, the athletic commission, the ringside physicians, the testing regime, the referee assignment, the judge's credentials, the entire scaffolding that professional boxing has built over a century of hard-earned lessons. When a promotion opts out of any part of that scaffolding, the promotion is not saving money. The promotion is transferring risk from the balance sheet to the fighter's body. And every second Zeus refuses to answer the testing question, that transfer is compounding. And on the 15th, when the bell rings, whoever is between those ropes is the person paying the compound interest. Ray J the personality, not the promoter. Now let's talk about Ray J the promoter, because Ray J is not a promoter. Ray J is a personality. And personalities, when handed a boxing microphone, will always default to what personalities do best, which is turn every conversation into a bit. Ray J turned this whole promo cycle into a bit. Ray J turned the testing question into a bit. Ray J turned the co-main event into a bit. Ray J turned Clarissa Shields' championship spotlight into a bit. And every bit Ray J drops chips away at the seriousness of the top of the card. This is not Ray J's fault, actually. This is the fault of whoever booked Ray J into a spot where Ray J's instincts would eat the promotion. You do not put a comedian on the same panel as a surgeon and then get upset when the audience laughs. Ray J's instincts are, in most contexts, actually good instincts for a certain kind of entertainment. Ray J understands that attention is a currency. Ray J understands that a viral clip is worth more than a scripted commercial. Ray J understands that the fastest path from obscurity back to conversation is a bold soundbite. Those are all legitimate skills in the modern content economy. But those skills are not boxing skills. Boxing does not reward the biggest soundbite. Boxing rewards the most disciplined execution. And Ray J, by leaning on his content instincts inside a boxing environment, is broadcasting the exact wrong signal. Ray J is telling the audience that this is not really about the boxing. Ray J is telling the audience that this is about who can grab the microphone hardest. And the boxing audience, the real boxing audience, is trained to hear that signal and tune out immediately. And this is where the operation really starts to leak. Because it is not just Ray J. Look at the co-main event math. You have Ray J versus Orlando Brown. You have Tashiki or Takashi, depending on which spelling the graphic used that day, on the card. You have Big Lex on the card. You have, sitting further down the poster, a woman being referenced by more than one commentator as, and I quote from public conversation, the fake WBC female champion. That is what real boxing observers are calling this card. Not fans of Clarissa Shields. Not haters of Zeus. Actual boxing observers. Because when the sanctioning conversation gets murky, the whole card gets murky, and the whole card just got a lot murkier because Ray J will not shut up. The bigger question about boxing itself. Now, I want to zoom out for a second and ask a bigger question because this is bigger than one card. This is bigger than one arena. This is about what is happening to boxing itself. Boxing has always had spectacle. Boxing has always had characters. Boxing has always had a carnival element to it, and that carnival element is part of what makes boxing beautiful. But there is a line between spectacle and cosplay, and the Zeus Network card is standing directly on that line. And every time a promoter tries to walk that line, one of two things happens. Either the promoter respects the sport and elevates the spectacle, or the promoter disrespects the sport and drags the spectacle into a place the sport cannot afford to visit. Zeus is currently on the wrong side of that line, and Ray J, unwittingly, is the one holding up the sign. Boxing survives because the fighters have always been bigger than the promoters. Boxing survives because when a promoter fails a fighter, the fighter in the ring on the night can override the failure with a performance nobody expected. That is the miracle of the sport. That is why boxing has endured a century of scandals and still remains one of the most compelling forms of live entertainment in the world. Because when the bell rings, everything outside the ring goes quiet, and the two athletes inside the ring are the whole story. That is the safety valve. That is the mechanism that has saved boxing from itself every time it has flirted with self-destruction. And that is the safety valve Zeus is testing on the 15th, because Zeus is betting that Clarissa Shields, alone, can override every single problem Zeus has created around her. And to be fair, Clarissa Shields might. Clarissa Shields probably will, because that is what Clarissa Shields does. But betting the sport's dignity on the shoulders of a single fighter, over and over again, is not a business model. It is exploitation dressed up as trust. Clarissa Shields the person. Let's talk about Clarissa Shields the person, because the person deserves this section. Clarissa Shields grew up in Flint. Clarissa Shields has been through what she has been through. Clarissa Shields has been the loudest advocate for women's boxing in the modern era, and Clarissa Shields has paid for that advocacy every step of the way. Clarissa Shields has been undervalued by networks. Clarissa Shields has been underpaid relative to her male peers. Clarissa Shields has been dismissed, mocked, and second-guessed by people who could not do one round with her in a bag room. And Clarissa Shields has still shown up. Every camp, every fight, every time. So when Ray J stands on a stage and tells the world that the paying customers are not showing up early to watch Clarissa Shields, understand what is being said. Ray J is not just insulting a champion. Ray J is insulting an entire lineage of women fighters who fought their way to a spotlight that Ray J is currently trying to steal. Clarissa Shields has done more for women's boxing than any single fighter of her generation. That is not a marketing line. That is a historical fact. Clarissa Shields has raised the ceiling of purses, the profile of the sport, the caliber of coverage, and the sanctioning respect that women's championship boxing receives. Clarissa Shields has been in title fights that were the most watched women's boxing bouts of their moment. Clarissa Shields has crossed over into other combat sports and returned to boxing with her championship intact. Clarissa Shields has trained coaches, mentored younger fighters, appeared at community events in her hometown, and shown up for the sport at every level. And the reward that Clarissa Shields is getting for a decade of that work is a promoter that will not answer basic testing questions and a co-star who thinks Clarissa Shields is the opening act on her own night. Let that sit for a second because it is going to matter later. Vindication for the skeptics. And this is where the vindication kicks in for anyone who has been listening to the whispers around this card. Because the boxing internet, the real boxing internet, has been saying since day one that this was a costume promotion. The boxing internet has been saying since the press conference that testing was going to be an issue. The boxing internet has been saying that Clarissa Shields was being used as legitimacy paint on a card that did not deserve her. And every single one of those observers is now looking at the Ray J footage and nodding. That is what a confirmation looks like. That is what the tape doing the work looks like. That is what happens when the loudest man in the room forgets that microphones do not care about your feelings. They only care about your words. And Ray J's words have written the review of this event before the event has even happened. And look, to the cosign choir, to the people who are going to pile into the comments right now and tell me I am being too hard on Ray J, too hard on Zeus, too hard on the concept of a celebrity boxing card. Let me help you here. I love a celebrity boxing card. I love a spectacle. I love a night at the fights that has a little bit of everything, from the world-class technicians at the top to the entertainers at the bottom. There is a whole tradition of that in boxing history. But that tradition works when the promotion respects the top of the card. That tradition works when the world champion is treated like the world champion. That tradition works when the undercard shuts up and lets the main event breathe. And this promotion is not doing any of that. This promotion is doing the opposite. And when Ray J is out here on the promo trail claiming credit for the whole draw, you are not watching a celebrity boxing card. You are watching a hostile takeover of a boxing card by a celebrity who thinks he is doing the champion a favor. Steelmanning Ray J. Now, let's steelman Ray J for 1 second because it would be intellectually lazy not to. Maybe Ray J is just excited. Maybe Ray J is just trying to sell his own fight. Maybe Ray J is just trying to get his name in the sports blogs so that Ray J versus Orlando Brown has a little bit of extra juice. Fine. Understandable. But the professional way to sell your own fight is not to torch the top of the poster. The professional way to sell your own fight is to hype your own fight while respecting the champion. That is basic promotion. That is what every seasoned boxer, every promoter with a career, every publicist worth their retainer will tell you. You do not eat the marquee. You climb it. And Ray J, in trying to climb it, ate it. That is not strategy. That is Ray J being Ray J on the biggest microphone of his year. And I want to give Ray J one more layer of grace here, because it is important. Ray J is not a boxer. Ray J is a personality who has agreed to enter a boxing ring for a specific event. Ray J is not part of the boxing community in the way that Clarissa Shields is. Ray J did not grow up in the sport, has not paid the same dues, does not owe the sport the same reverence. Ray J is a guest in this world, and Ray J is treating the world with the exact amount of respect a guest usually gives when nobody has taught them the customs. That is not Ray J's fault as much as it is the fault of the people who invited Ray J and forgot to explain that boxing has customs. Zeus should have prepped Ray J. Zeus should have media-trained Ray J. Zeus should have given Ray J talking points that respected the top of the card. Zeus did not, and now Zeus and Ray J both look like exactly what they are, which is people who do not understand the room they walked into. The structural problem at Zeus. And here is the part that is going to get me in trouble in the comments, and I do not care. The bigger issue behind Ray J is Zeus itself. Because Ray J is a symptom. Zeus is the diagnosis. Zeus greenlit this card. Zeus approved this promotional strategy. Zeus put Ray J in front of a microphone knowing exactly what Ray J does when placed in front of a microphone. Zeus has a specific business model, and that business model is built on manufactured drama, manufactured beef, and manufactured moments that translate into subscriber pings. When you overlay that business model on top of a real boxing card with a real world champion, you get exactly what you are seeing right now. Chaos, leaks, confessions on camera, a promotional team that cannot get out of its own way, and a champion who deserves better than being marketed by the loudest man in the co-main event. And this is why, when you sit down and really look at the tape, Ray J's comments are not a gaffe. They are a symptom of a bigger structural problem in how celebrity boxing is being sold in 2026. The old rules of promotion have been thrown out. The new rules are engagement first, integrity later, and if the integrity never shows up, no worries, we will just move on to the next card. Zeus is running that playbook at maximum volume, and Ray J is the loudest instrument in the band. But if you listen carefully, you can hear it. The whole thing is out of tune. And the audience, the real boxing audience, is listening. Understanding the Zeus business model. Let me pull back for a second and walk you through the Zeus business model, because I think a lot of people watching this do not fully understand what Zeus actually is. And once you understand what Zeus actually is, the Ray J footage becomes even more damning. Zeus is a streaming platform built almost entirely on manufactured conflict. The formula is simple. Take a personality with public equity. Pair that personality with another personality who has a public grievance, a public rivalry, or a public inclination toward chaos. Point the cameras. Wait for the clips. Post the clips. Sell the subscriptions. That is the business, and to be clear, it is a very good business when you keep it in its lane. The problem is that Zeus decided the lane was not big enough, and Zeus decided that a real boxing card, sanctioned by a real athletic commission with a real world champion on the poster, was the next logical expansion. Zeus decided that the same content farm model that sells reality television grudge matches would sell a Clarissa Shields main event. And Zeus was wrong. Zeus is being shown in real time that boxing is not reality television with gloves on. Boxing has rules. Boxing has weight classes. Boxing has testing regimes. Boxing has decades of institutional memory that will chew up any promoter who tries to shortcut it. And Zeus is currently getting chewed up on camera by its own co-main event. There is a version of the Zeus expansion into boxing that could have worked. There is a version where Zeus partners with an established promoter, defers to boxing convention on testing and sanctioning, lets the champion drive the narrative, and treats the celebrity undercard as the sprinkles on a cake instead of the whole cake. In that version, Zeus builds credibility over multiple cards, learns the sport, earns its way into the room, and eventually becomes a legitimate boxing promoter with a distinctive brand identity. That version exists on paper. It is not the version Zeus chose. Zeus chose instead to try to skip every step by the biggest available champion, surround her with the loudest available personalities, and hope the mixture would auto-detonate into a subscription surge. That is not expansion. That is arson with a business plan. What the ticket buyer is actually buying. Now, look at what that means for the ticket buyer. If you paid money for a seat inside the State Farm Arena, or if you paid to stream the card, you did not pay for a boxing event. You paid for a Zeus event that happens to have boxing in it. Two very different products. And Zeus has been aggressively refusing to say which one it is actually selling. That ambiguity is the entire reason Ray J was able to torch the promotion without a single Zeus staffer stopping him. Zeus does not actually want Ray J to shut up. Zeus wants Ray J to keep making clips. Zeus is watching Ray J burn the marquee and quietly rubbing its hands together because every ash cloud is a trending topic. That is not a partnership. That is a farm. And the crop is content. Think about the last time you bought a ticket to a legitimate boxing event. Think about what you expected. You expected a card that respected your time. You expected undercard bouts that showcased rising talent. You expected a broadcast that took the sport seriously. You expected a walkout that felt like a walkout. You expected the athletic commission to do its job in the background. You expected the fighters, all of them, to be professionals with skin in the game. Now compare that expectation to what Zeus is offering. Zeus is offering a card where the undercard is more entertainer than fighter. Zeus is offering a broadcast that will lean heavily on personality segments and social clips. Zeus is offering a night where the connective tissue between bouts is less boxing and more Instagram. And Zeus is charging you legitimate boxing prices for it. That is not a scam, technically. But it is a category mismatch, and category mismatches always leave someone feeling cheated. In this case, that someone is likely to be every hardcore boxing fan who buys in expecting the sport they love. Ray J Empathy Section. Which brings me to Ray J, and I want to do this section with a little empathy because Ray J is being used just as much as Clarissa Shields, only Ray J does not know it. Ray J understands one currency, and that currency is attention. Ray J does not understand boxing currency, which is respect. Ray J understands cameras and microphones, and Ray J understands that the best way to stay in the conversation is to say something Ray J-shaped every time a light turns on. In most contexts, that instinct is a strength. It has kept Ray J on television for 2 decades. But the moment Ray J walks onto a boxing card, the instinct becomes a liability because the boxing card does not need attention. The boxing card needs credibility. And Ray J spent his entire promo run trading the credibility for the attention. Ray J thought he was helping. Ray J was hurting. And nobody around Ray J was willing to say it because the people around Ray J are paid to nod, not to warn. Every entertainer of Ray J's tenure eventually reaches a moment where the instincts that built the career start to work against the career. That is a natural stage in any long entertainment run. The playbook that got you here does not always get you there. And Ray J on this card is standing in that exact hinge moment. If Ray J understood the hinge, Ray J could pivot the entire narrative in a single interview. Ray J could walk into a Zeus set tomorrow and say, "You know what, I want to make something clear. Clarissa Shields is the reason this card exists. Clarissa Shields is one of the greatest fighters of my lifetime. I am honored to share a night with her." That is all it would take. One sentence. One paragraph. And every clip of the Zeus speech would suddenly recontextualize into a story of a personality who learned in real time. But Ray J is not going to do that because nobody around Ray J is telling Ray J that Ray J needs to. And that is the tragedy of the operation. Not the mistake. The refusal to correct. Clarissa Shields paying the invoice. And this is where I keep coming back to Clarissa Shields because Clarissa Shields is the one paying the invoice on all of this. Clarissa Shields did not ask for this promotional style. Clarissa Shields did not ask for a co-star who was going to turn testing questions into juice punchlines. Clarissa Shields did not ask to be marketed as an appetizer. Clarissa Shields signed on because Clarissa Shields wants to fight, wants the payday earned a dozen times over, and being the kind of competitor she is, will find a way to make any environment work. That is the tragedy. The champion is going to do her job on the 15th and remind everybody, without saying a word, why Clarissa Shields is Clarissa Shields. But every credit Clarissa Shields earns that night will be siphoned into a narrative Clarissa Shields never approved. That is the cost of doing business with a platform that does not know the difference between a fight card and a group chat. And here is the twist inside the twist. Because I have been reading the boxing forums. I have been reading the sports radio timelines. I have been reading the corners of the internet where real fight fans actually gather. And there is a growing consensus that this card is going to be a turning point. Not for Zeus, not for Ray J, but for Clarissa Shields. Because after the 15th, if Clarissa Shields walks out of that ring the way we all expect Clarissa Shields to walk out of that ring, the conversation is not going to be about Zeus and it is not going to be about Ray J. The conversation is going to be about how much longer Clarissa Shields is going to keep saving promotions that do not deserve saving. The conversation is going to be about which real boxing partner, which real institutional broadcaster, which real world-class promotion is going to step up and give Clarissa Shields the platform Clarissa Shields has earned. And once that conversation starts in earnest, Zeus is going to look back on this card, look back on the Ray J footage, and realize they did not just fumble a fight night. They fumbled a champion. The twist nobody is ready for. Now here is the twist that most people scrolling past this story are not going to catch yet. Look at who is going to gain from all of this. Because in a strange way, Clarissa Shields might come out of this stronger than anyone expects. Every controversial promotion in the history of boxing has produced two possible outcomes for the champion at the top of the card. Either the champion gets swallowed by the circus, or the champion turns the circus into a stage. Clarissa Shields has never once been swallowed by anything. Clarissa Shields is not about to start now. So when Clarissa Shields walks into the State Farm Arena on the 15th, walks under those lights, and walks through K. Scott the way we all expect Clarissa Shields to walk through K. Scott, the story is not going to be Ray J. The story is not going to be Zeus. The story is going to be Clarissa Shields. Because Clarissa Shields one more time is going to remind everybody who the actual main event is, and Ray J's whole promo run is going to look, in retrospect, like the biggest advertisement Clarissa Shields could ever have asked for. That is how a real headline writes itself. That is how a real champion moves through a compromised promotion and still walks out the winner. And that is why, even in the middle of all this Ray J-generated chaos, there is a version of this story where Clarissa Shields wins twice. Once in the ring and once in the timeline, when every clip of Ray J saying the fans are not showing up for Clarissa Shields gets played back next to the shot of Clarissa Shields holding another belt over her head with the arena screaming. Screenshot this paragraph. Come back to it on the 16th. We will talk about it. Responding to the cosign choir. Now to the cosign choir defending Ray J. To the crowd that is going to hop in these comments and say, "You do not understand the game. Ray J is selling the fight." Let me finish the point. Because the truth is, Ray J is selling a fight. But Ray J is not selling the fight that is on the poster. Ray J is selling the fight in Ray J's head, where Ray J is Muhammad Ali and Orlando Brown is Joe Frazier, and Clarissa Shields is the opening act. That is the fight Ray J is promoting. Meanwhile, the actual promoter, Zeus, is nodding along because the clips are moving. That is not a partnership. That is not a promotion. That is a group project where one person is doing all the work, one person is doing all the talking, and the one person who is actually qualified is sitting quietly in Miami, wondering why she agreed to this in the first place. And to be fair, we still do not know what Clarissa Shields is doing in Miami. Nobody has told us. Not Clarissa Shields' team. Not Zeus. Not the promotional partners. Not the sanctioning body. Not the sponsors. Nobody. And in the current climate of boxing, where transparency is the difference between a legitimate promotion and a punchline, that silence is doing more damage than Ray J's microphone ever could. Answer the question. Where is the camp? Where is the film work? Where is the sparring? Where are the check-ins? Give us something. Because right now, the only person filling the promotional vacuum is Ray J, and Ray J is filling it with juice metaphors. The stakes beyond one night. Let me remind you again what the stakes are here. The stakes are not just one fight card. The stakes are the credibility of women's championship boxing on a streaming platform in a moment when women's championship boxing is fighting harder than ever for real institutional respect. Every card like this either builds that credibility or spends it. And Zeus, at least so far, has been spending it, not building it. Clarissa Shields will do what Clarissa Shields does. Clarissa Shields will win. But whether the sport around Clarissa Shields grows because of this card or shrinks in spite of it is the real question. And it is a question that lands squarely at the feet of the people running the promotion. Women's boxing is at a specific moment right now, and that moment is more delicate than the general public realizes. On one hand, the top of the division has never been stronger. There are more elite female fighters in more weight classes with more championship history than at any prior point in the sport's history. On the other hand, the infrastructure around those fighters is still catching up. The pay is still not equitable. The broadcast slots are still not the same. The sanctioning attention is still uneven. And the marketing dollars from the major networks are still allocated as though women's boxing is an experiment rather than an established product. In that landscape, every big card matters twice. It matters as a fight, and it matters as a data point that either accelerates the infrastructure or slows it down. And Zeus, by producing a card that is as promotionally compromised as this one, is generating a data point that slows the infrastructure. That is not a small thing. That is a generational cost, and Clarissa Shields is the one holding the bill. What the community should do. So what should you do? What should the fans do? What should the community do? Simple. Watch the fight. Watch the whole card. But watch it with your eyes open. Watch it knowing what Ray J said. Watch it knowing what Zeus did not say. Watch it knowing that the testing conversation has not been answered. Watch it knowing that Clarissa Shields deserves better than to be marketed by the man saying she is not the reason people are showing up. And after the fight, whether Clarissa Shields wins the way we all expect her to, or something unexpected happens, hold the promotion accountable. Do not let the timeline forget. Do not let the clips disappear into the algorithm. Because if we let this card slide, we are inviting the next Zeus card, and the next one, and the next one, until the whole idea of a legitimate women's championship on a streaming platform becomes a running joke. Accountability in the modern content economy is not automatic. Accountability requires a community that keeps receipts, replays clips, and refuses to let the news cycle bury the record. That is the only mechanism that actually shapes future promotional behavior. Networks and promoters watch the community carefully, more carefully than most fans realize. If a card slides into the archive without commentary, if the criticisms fade in a week, if the trending topics move on, the network reads that silence as consent. The network then greenlights the next card exactly like this one, only louder, only cheaper, only more compromised. And the sport pays the price again. So if you actually care about women's championship boxing, if you actually care about Clarissa Shields, if you actually care about the future of the sport on streaming platforms, do not let the silence set in. Talk about this card. Screenshot the clips. Post the receipts. Ask the questions. That is how the future gets protected. Why the juice speech matters. And that is the real reason Ray J's little juice speech matters. Because Ray J did not just embarrass himself. Ray J embarrassed the whole apparatus. Ray J shone a floodlight on every corner of this promotion that Zeus was hoping would stay in the dark. Ray J told the fans who the promotion actually values. Ray J told the fans how the promotion actually operates. Ray J told the fans what the promotion actually thinks of Clarissa Shields, of the sport, of testing, of standards, of legacy. Ray J did all of that in one sitting, in one interview, with one microphone, and in one absurdly Ray J way. And now the tape lives forever. Now the tape is out here doing its thing. Now the tape is what everyone is going to remember, no matter what happens in the ring on the 15th. Returning to the champion. Which brings us back to where we started. Clarissa Shields is the greatest women's boxer breathing right now. Clarissa Shields has been the greatest for a long time. Clarissa Shields will be the greatest for a long time after this card is a footnote. And Ray J, in trying to make himself the headline, made Clarissa Shields the story again in the only way Ray J knows how. By opening his mouth. That is Ray J. That is why Ray J is Ray J. And that is why, when you look at the receipts always come back the same. The champion is the champion. The undercard is the undercard. And the microphone is a mirror, and Ray J just looked into it and told on himself for 20 straight minutes without blinking. Closing call and ask. Before I let you go, I want to hear from you. Drop it in the comments. Do you think Ray J tanked the promotion on purpose? Or did Ray J just tank it because Ray J is Ray J? Do you think Zeus is going to address the testing question before the 15th? Or will Zeus stay quiet all the way through the walkouts? Do you think Clarissa Shields comes out of this bigger than she went in? Or do you think this card leaves a stain on a resume that has never had one? Tell me. I read every comment. And if you made it this far into the video, do me a favor. Hit that like button one more time. Subscribe if you have not already. Ring the bell if you want to be here for the next chapter, because there will absolutely be a next chapter, and it is going to be a wild one. On top of that, roll straight into the next video on your end screen. There is a whole rabbit hole waiting for you, and I promise you, once you go down it, you are going to want to stay a while. Until then, take care of yourselves, watch the tape, keep your eyes open, and remember, the champion is the champion, no matter how loud the co-main gets. Ray J said what Ray J said. Zeus did what Zeus did. Clarissa Shields is going to do what Clarissa Shields always does. And the rest of us are going to be right here to watch it happen.